أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Today in our society, for many years, we live in a society that promotes all sorts of fawahish, all sorts of lewdness, all sorts of immorality, all sorts of lewdnessness, and all sorts of, really filthy things that everybody can agree we're not supposed to engage in. Whether it's things that we watch, whether it's things that we do. SubhanAllah, I was driving on the highway recently, and sometimes you're driving on the highway and there's some signs for restaurants, there's signs for rest stops, and sometimes you pass by a sign that says adult store. I'm sure we've all seen it. Adult store, exit 40, right? So we're being bombarded, whether it's through billboards, whether it's through ads, something sexual. Driving on the service road, wherever you're driving, and the taxi, has like a little advertisement that says gentleman club. They make it sound nice. Gentlemen, it's a gentleman's club. Right, where gentlemen go and then they enjoy themselves. Strip clubs, bars, even in movies, right? Movies, even in kids' movies, they have these subtle, little messages, these little jokes that maybe the kids don't really realize. In cartoons, movie trailers, books, magazines, you name it. Like we're in video games even. We're being bombarded. There's video games out there where it's literally pornographic material in the video games. And they make it seem like some nice game. You're playing as this hero, but it literally has porn in the video game. So we're living in a society where we're being bombarded by sexual images, sexual themes, wherever we go. You're in the subway, you're going to see a museum of sex or something like this. I'm sure you've all seen that advertisement on the bus. You're trying to drive home from work and then you see that. Immediately, what do you think that's going to do to your mind? What do you think that's going to do to your thoughts? We're being bombarded by sexual things all day. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why I think statistically, I don't remember how often people think about sexual things, but I think it's like every few seconds or something. Every adult male, they think about sex every few seconds, something like this. But that's not far-fetched because of how much is being bombarded on us. Now, when it comes to pornography is something that statistically, I just want to mention some of the statistics, some of these statistics, because sometimes we don't feel like it's that much of an epidemic. But this is really a new drug. Ever since we're able to stream video on our phones, on our computers, this wasn't the case in the 80s. This wasn't the case in the 70s. So for a lot of us, we don't even know the long-term effects of this type of pornography addiction that we find in our society today. We don't know exactly how it's gonna lead people down the line when they've been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years. It's only been around for just a few decades now. But just to show you how much of an epidemic it is, there's some statistics that have been mentioned. At any second of the day, there are at least 30,000 people worldwide watching porn. 30,000 people in the entire world. Every second, over $3,000 are being spent on pornographic material. Whether that's a subscription, whether that's to get some private access, whether that's some video call, whatever the case is, over $3,000 are being spent every second. Imagine what that money would do for the poor. Imagine what that money would do for those who actually need that money. Every single day in the US, 37 pornographic videos are made every single day. It's almost 40 made every single day. Imagine how much are made in a month. And that's the average. Perhaps that's the bare minimum. That's what we know of. Forget about the stuff that we don't even know about. That those who are making these statistics don't have the data to include, right? So imagine how much will be produced on a yearly basis for decades at a time, and you all have that on the click of a button, on the swipe on your phone. Just type it in. Right? Just type it in, and all of those videos, all of those pictures, all of that stuff is literally at your fingertips. Imagine all of that you have at your fingertips. 25% of all internet searches are porn related. A quarter of the reasons why people search things on the internet is because of some lewdness that they're trying to look at, some filth that they're trying to look at, some porn that they're trying to watch. 200,000 Americans are diagnosed with pornographic addiction. It's actually a real psychological problem that's coming to light more and more in our recent times. 40 million Americans, statistically 40 million Americans watch porn on a regular basis. 40 million Americans. Perhaps there's some countries that don't even have that amount of people, and this is just in this country alone. Statistically, 70% of men, 70% of women, 70% of men and 20% of women watch porn at least once a month. That's at least once a month. So I'm telling you, statistically, there's somebody here that's watching it. Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. And I'm not trying to put anything on the community or anybody, but statistically, looking at the amount of people, if it's 70%, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, perhaps there's somebody that's dealing with this issue. And if it's not you, it's one of your family members. If it's not you, it's one of your kids. If it's not you, it's one of your siblings, it's one of your parents, it's somebody. And a lot of people think that this is only a problem for the men. But this is equally a problem for the women. Perhaps statistically, it's not as much, like they may not watch it as frequent, but it's a problem for the women as well. Women have pornographic addiction just like men do. But this is a serious problem. Now, some of you may be thinking, no, my family, nobody watches pornographic material in my household. Some of you think you know your kids. You don't even know your kids, some of you. Some of you, brothers and sisters, think that you know your kids. They come home, mashallah, sweet kid, they give you a hug. They listen to you at home. I'm telling you, some of you guys who have your kids in public schools, they're totally different people. And I'm telling you this because I went to public school, elementary school, middle school, and high school all my life. So I know what I'm talking about. Like, I see these kids. And sometimes when their parents come and they pick them up, I remember in high school, some of the girls, what they would do is that when their parents would drop them to school with the hijab on, they would come to school, they would take it off. Nobody's going to make an issue because obviously people can practice whatever they want freely in terms of religion. But they would take off their hijab, and when their parents come to pick them up, they would put it on back. Some of you, perhaps that's happening to you right now and you have no idea. Some of you may think, oh no, my son, he's memorizing Quran. I'm telling you, people watch porn even when they're memorizing Quran. People who are practicing Islam. And perhaps they're truthful. We're not going to say nobody is lying or being dishonest or are munafiqun. It's a problem that people have. We all have our own sicknesses. We all have our own problems. I'm struggling with things. We're all struggling with things, but we're doing different things. But this is a problem we have to try to help. And and if you find out that a family member is doing this, don't just shame them. Don't just make them feel bad. Don't just expose them, but try to help them. I'm telling you, there are brothers and sisters who are crying to Allah Azza wa Jal, who are trying to find a way out. We need to help these people. We need to help these people. I was talking to a brother a couple days ago. He was telling me that in his country back home, his Quran teacher, he actually caught his Quran teacher watching porn. His Quran teacher, who's teaching him Quran, this brother told me that this Quran teacher actually was the first person that taught him about Tawheed, about worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Think about that. I'm telling you, there are probably imams in the world watching porn. There's probably teachers, there are probably students, people that have the longest beards that you can probably see. People that maybe we would associate religiosity with them, they're watching these things as well. And the reason why it's so easy is because it's a secret habit. Nobody sees when you're doing it, right? All of the family members are at home, right? The wife is asleep, the husband is asleep, the kids are asleep, and you're by yourself in your office doing work. You're doing work. Oh, honey, I have a lot of work for tomorrow. Yeah, you're doing work, right? You take long bathroom breaks, whatever the case is, right? So this is something that we find even in our Islamic schools as communities. Right? So this is a problem that we need to really need to face. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is there anything in the Quran, is there anything in the Sunnah that we can benefit from when it comes to this particular issue? And when we talk about porn, we're not just talking about porn by itself, but we're talking about masturbation as well. We're talking about masturbation as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah Al-Ma'arij, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the qualities of the believers who will have paradise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning some basic qualities that they have. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ, and those who protect their private parts. So the asl for the believer, the general rule for the believer is that they protect their private parts from anything. From anything, anybody, and any type of thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the believers, they are those who guard their private parts except for their wives, their spouses, their husbands, except for their spouses and what the right hand possesses. And we don't have that in our times. We don't have slavery in our times as was present during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in our times, the only way for you to satisfy your sexual desires in a way that's pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal is through marriage. That's it. Everything else, you are to protect your private parts. Even if it's from your own hand. Even if it's from some device. Even if it's from whatever else people indulge themselves in when it comes to fulfilling their sexual desires. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all of us. Ameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, whoever desires more than that, more than their spouses, whoever desires more than that, then they are transgressors. This ayah covers everything that you could possibly indulge yourself with in terms of sexuality besides your spouses. Right, besides your spouses. So it's not even a question. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to people, especially for porn and masturbation, is the feeling that any believer gets after doing this. Sometimes people come and they ask me for advice, and this is something that you should do as well. Try to find somebody that can give you some good advice. Sometimes some people need some help, and I'm telling you, some people that they would come, whether they send a text message to me or they come and they tell me and they try to get some way out. They feel like garbage after doing it. And if there's anybody here who has been in this situation or is struggling with this problem, you know exactly what I'm talking about. After you do it, it's like any addiction, drinking or whatever the case is, you feel like the worst thing in the world. You feel like a piece of trash on the ground. But before doing it, it's like a rush inside of you. You got to do it because it's an addiction. It's a problem. Right? So these people that have this problem, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for them. But we must realize that it's not something permissible as a Muslim. And the scary thing is some people, they're so addicted to it that they're going to try to justify it. It's like a drug, like a drug addict. Some of them don't even want to acknowledge the fact that they're destroying themselves. But they just want to keep justifying it. Why? So that they can feel nice about it. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, there's one hadith, he says, he spoke to the youth, hadith in Bukhari. He says, "Oh youth, مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمُ الْبَاءَةَ فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ." Whoever is able to get married, then let him get married. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that فَإِنَّهُ أَغَضُّ لِلْبَصَرِ, because it helps protect the eyes. وَأَحْسَنُ لِلْفَرْجِ, and it helps protect the private parts. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَعَلَيْهِ بِالصَّوْمِ فَإِنَّهُ لَهُ وِجَاء. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever is not able to get married, let him fast. Did the Prophet ﷺ said, look at pornography. Look at the opposite gender. This is going to suffice you. Right? Masturbate. This is what's going to suffice you. No, the Prophet ﷺ, he said to fast. That, this is the prophetic advice of what we should do if somebody is in a situation. They're not able to get married, you should fast. And we're going to talk about fasting in a bit, inshallah ta'ala. Because fasting is one of those things, if you're in this problem, or when it comes to any addiction, fasting is going to help build up that willpower. You're like abstaining from eating the entire day. Right? And you're practicing this concept of delayed gratification. And for a lot of people that are dealing with addictions, this is something that they need to train. And fasting is one of those things that helps. The Prophet ﷺ, he even tells us about the zina of the eyes. About looking at what you're not supposed to look at. The Prophet ﷺ, he tells us, وَالْعَيْنَانِ تَزْنِيَانِ. He tells us that the two eyes, they commit zina as well. The two eyes, they commit adultery. The two eyes, they fornicate as well. What is the zina of the eyes? The Prophet ﷺ, he says, وَزِنَاهُمَا النَّظَرُ. And the zina of the eyes, the fornication of the eyes is looking. So imagine what this would do to you as a mu'min, as a believer. Watching this stuff on a daily basis. Right? Watching this stuff on a daily basis. I remember when I was in school, when I was in high school, some of the kids, they would say that when they're on their break from school, that's all they do all day. And some of us, we buy these smartphones for our kids. And we think that, we have to take precautions, right? We got to take precautions. If you're at home, you got kids, put the computer in the living room, right? Try to prevent them from ever falling into this, because nobody is safe from this, right? Nobody is safe from this. So, so the Prophet tells us that the zina of the eyes is looking. So imagine what this would do to you if you are addicted to this. Right? And you're doing this on a daily basis. And there's a lot of people, I'm telling you, that are in this situation and they feel like hypocrites when they pray. They feel like hypocrites when they try to be more religious. And that's not the case. You should keep trying to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as possible and keep trying to fight this disease. But the problem is that some people, they try to look down on this sin. They try to say, oh, it's something small. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, there's one statement that he made. He said that, لا صغيرة مع الإصرار. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said, there's no such thing as a minor sin when you keep on doing it. It becomes a major sin. And there's even a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He tells us, إِيَّاكُمْ وَمُحَقَّرَاتِ الذُّنُوبِ. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that beware of those sins that people look down on. Perhaps it's a sin that's so easy to commit like this one. He said, do not look down on those small sins that people look down upon. Don't look down upon them. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, فَإِنَّهُنَّ يَجْتَمِعْنَ عَلَى الرَّجُلِ حَتَّى يُهْلِكْنَا. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that these sins, they pile up on a person. They pile up one after another, and the years go by until they destroy a person. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and to protect all of the believers and all of our communities, all of our family members from this sin. Ameen. And there's one story that I remember hearing, and that is that there was one brother, he was watching porn, and one day he was telling his friends about how much porn he's watching and what subscriptions he has and all of these different things that he has. So this brother, what he did is that his friends were interested. They said, hey man, can you tell us some of those good websites, right? How to get those subscriptions for free, how to download them for free and things like that. He said, you know what, I got you guys. So what he did is that somehow he found on his email, he had the ability to kind of automatically redirect his subscription email, like whatever content would come to him through his email. He found this way on his email that he would be able to automatically redirect it to all of his friends, automatically. So on a weekly basis, every time he would meet up with his friends, they would be like, yo, that was some good stuff you sent me. That was some really good stuff you sent me. So he would be like, don't worry, more is coming next week. And it would keep on coming automatically. And this guy had like a 2-year subscription or something like that. What happened is this brother, he died. He passed away. And these are all Muslims in this story. They all prayed janazah over him. And they forgot about the subscription. But then a few days later, the day in which he would automatically redirect all of that porn material to them, they all got the email. And years would pass by and they would keep getting the same, he had some automatic subscription, right? They would keep getting the same updates from this guy, the same redirected porn material after his death. Imagine how scary that is. Imagine how sick that is, that somebody in their grave has to deal with that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for the believers. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for those of us who are going through this, and any of us who are going through all of the other sinful addictions that we may have. أقول ما تسمعون واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وصلاة الله وسلامه على عباده الذين اصطفى وبعد. Now, porn is not just something that is, porn and masturbation is not just something that's harmful to us from a religious perspective, but it destroys our lives from a non-religious perspective as well. Scientifically, you guys can do your own research on this. It leads to erectile dysfunction. It leads to premature ejaculation. It leads to a lot of problems in the intimacy life of Muslims, or anybody for that matter. And this is why I know personal situations where people have gotten divorced because of the same stinking issue. Because of the same filthy habit, divorces happen even within our communities. Sometimes you find that two people, they look nice, they look like they're having a happy relationship, but then they get divorced and you don't know why, because they won't, expose this to you. And it's because of the same filthy habit. This is something that even celebrities have come out and they have said that how this is something that almost destroyed their marriages. So this is something that I think if anybody is going through this problem, they can agree that there's some harm that it brings them in their lives. Now, how do we get rid of this problem? How do we get rid of this problem? We have to realize that a lot of these addictions, they're not because of the addictions themselves. It's normally because of another problem that you have within your life. So some people, they need acceptance. So because they don't find acceptance in their lives, they resort to something like drugs or porn or something else like this. Some people, they're alone. And because they don't have anybody with them, they don't have a spouse, they don't have anybody with them to fulfill their desires with, then they fall into this sin, they fall into this problem. So we got to realize that when it comes to a lot of these addictions, psychologically, it's not because of no reason, right? There's a reason behind it. Perhaps it's some problem you have in your life. Perhaps it's an acceptance issue. Perhaps it's your self-esteem. Whatever the case is, many people have different issues. Now, to get rid of this is just some points of advice that I have for those who are going through this. And remember, this is not just for those who are suffering from a porn addiction, but this is for anybody suffering from any addiction to any sin. All right, number one, you have to realize that it's a problem. You got to acknowledge that it's a problem. If you're trying to justify it, if you're cool with it, if you're happy with it, if you're comfortable with it, you're not going to change. You're not going to change because you don't see it as a problem. But think about your akhirah. Think about the amount of sins that will be piling up year after year when you commit this sin or whatever other sin you're committing. Right? So realize that it is a problem. You need to change. If you don't believe that you have to change, you're not going to change. No matter what anybody tells you, you have to believe it. You have to want to change. You have to realize that you got to drop this habit. And that's the first step of changing, right? The first step to solving any problem is realizing that there's an actual problem. And the problem is some people try to justify it. Some people try to say, oh, it's something small. It's something little. Oh, it's just a small habit. It's okay. Really? Really? Look at the problems that is causing you in your life. Many people are losing jobs. I remember one brother I was trying to help with this addiction. This brother could not find a stable job because of this issue. Another brother, what happened to him is he's watching so much porn. Every time he looks at his mom, he's thinking about sexual things when he's looking at his own mother. When he's looking at his sister, he's thinking sexual thoughts. And this is what happens to you. Everything all of a sudden becomes sexual. Every time you talk to a sister or a woman, or anytime a sister talks to a brother, or even the same gender, you're thinking about sexual thoughts in your mind. How sick is that? So there's a lot of harms that come from this, and you need to realize that it's a problem. My second point of advice is to never stop fighting it. Never give up. Some people go through porn addiction for like years. It may take you 10 years to stop. It may take you 8 years to stop. It may take you 5 years to stop. It may take you a few months to stop. But you cannot give up, right? There's a quote that I really like. It says that you miss every shot that you don't take. You miss every shot that you don't take. And you lose every time you give up by default. Perhaps if you kept going, you're going to get out of it. Right? You're going to get out of it. And the Prophet ﷺ, he tells us, وَأَتْبِعِ السَّيِّئَةَ الْحَسَنَةَ تَمْحُهَا, and follow up a bad deed with a good deed, it will wipe it away. So always try to improve yourself. Even if you're addicted to this, try to improve yourself. Try to fight it. Right? Try to fight it. There's even a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ tells us that the true mujahid, the true one, like the one who truly strives in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the one who strives against himself in the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the true struggle that we have to go through as believers. My third point of advice is to be around good company. Be around good friends that are going to remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're around friends that watch porn together with you, then that's the wrong company. You need to drop those friends like a bad habit. And it's literally a bad habit that they're trying to encourage you to commit. Right? So be around good company. Try to come to the masjid. Try to be around people that are going to remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Be around people that perhaps used to commit sins, but then they made tawbah from those sins. And perhaps you're going to get reminders, and that's going to help you. And one of the things that leads to pornography in the first place is being alone. That's what I'm saying. Put the computer in the middle of the household. Collect the phones from your kids before they go to bed. I'm telling you. Some of you are thinking that my kids don't do this, but I'm telling you, some of your kids probably do this. So you need to take precautions, right? So be around good company. Try not to be alone. Try to, develop good habits, good hobbies. Try to keep yourself busy, because when you're bored, it's very easy to fall into this. And my fifth point of advice, and this is the most important, is to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. Seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. I think this is the most important advice that anybody who is going through any, addiction of any sin can have. And that is seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. Right? Seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. No leaf falls except by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission. You cannot do anything. When we say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, you guys heard the adhan, you were probably saying La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. What does La hawla mean? La hawla wa la quwwata. There's no movement. You can't move from one state to another. Nothing can move, nothing can happen. Wala quwwata, and there's no power illa billah, except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you truly humble yourself towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and realize you can't even breathe, you can't talk, you can't think, and you can't do anything, including this sin, except by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission, and except by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will, and you truly submit to Him, perhaps you may never leave the sin until you have this realization. So put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always call out to Allah Azza wa Jal. Always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said that La saghirat ma'al israr, that there's no minor sin while a person continues doing the sin. That the sin is not minor if you continue doing it. But Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he also said, وَلَا كَبِيرَةَ مَعَ الْإِسْتِغْفَارِ. And there's no such thing as a major sin when a person asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them. So always develop that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if you're committing this sin. Because perhaps it's through that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for our brothers and sisters going through this problem. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we realize how great of a problem this is, and we address this problem to our family members and to to those around us. Ameen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are able to help those around us. And it is not sinful to go to somebody that you feel that will help you in this situation. Sometimes you may need to go to a therapist. Sometimes maybe a non-Muslim therapist, because they're going to help you from the psychological angle. Sometimes you need to go to somebody to give you good advice. Perhaps somebody broke this addiction. They can help you. So in those situations, you're not considered to be exposing yourself, but you're doing it out of need. So try to find somebody. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for our brothers and sisters. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive all of them. Ameen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all sorts of fawahish. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with khushu' in our salawat. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب وأقيم الصلاة. You still close all of the gaps, shoulder to shoulder. Brothers, make sure that you're filling in the rows in front of you before you straighten your own rows. If you see a gap in front, just quickly move up, inshallah. And come this way. All of the brothers over there in the back, just keep coming this way. Towards the front area of the masjid, towards the middle area.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم وأنيبوا إلى ربكم وأسلموا له من قبل أن يأتيكم العذاب ثم لا تنصرون واتبعوا أحسن ما أنزل إليكم من ربكم من قبل أن يأتيكم العذاب بغتة وأنتم لا تشعرون أن تقول نفس يا حسرة على ما فرطت في جنب الله وإن كنت لمن الساخرين أو تقول لو أن الله هداني لكنت من المتقين أو تقول لو أن لي كرة فأكون من المحسنين أو تقول حين ترى العذاب لو أن لي كرة فأكون من المحسنين بلى قد جاءتك آياتي فكذبت بها واستكبرت وكنت من الكافرين. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إن الإنسان خلق هلوعا إذا مسه الشر جزوعا وإذا مسه الخير منوعا إلا المصلين الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون والذين في أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم والذين يصدقون بيوم الدين والذين هم من عذاب ربهم مشفقون إن عذاب ربهم غير مأمون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون والذين هم بشهاداتهم قائمون والذين هم على صلواتهم يحافظون والذين هم على صلاتهم حافظون أولئك في جنات مكرمون والذين هم على صلاتهم يحافظون أولئك في جنات مكرمون. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله الله أكبر. الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. Shukran Sh.Zakareeya Baksh for the beautiful reminder. May Allah protect us, Ameen. We just have a couple of announcements. Please join us this Saturday, March 7th at 4 o'clock p.m. at Masjid ar-Rahman for our next fundraiser. The tickets are very affordable. For one ticket, it is $20. For a family of four, it is $50. This is truly an event you do not want to miss out on. Our children have been practicing aimlessly for the past 2 months to prepare for this event. Please support them as well as the Masjid, not only for you, but for the next generation. We're going to have inspiring speeches, an award ceremony, and a 3-course dinner. Let's come together for the next generation and for this Masjid. So we also have our weekly halaqah. It'll be this Monday night on the topic of the migration of Ibrahim. It'll be with Sh.Zakareeya Baksh, starting at 7:45 p.m., and refreshments will be served. This is open for both brothers and sisters. We also have our weekly halaqah, not a weekly halaqah, we also have our weekly recitation with Imam Noah Kaukab. Learn to recite Surah An-Nas properly. Ramadan is about a month or so away, so please try to come out if you can. Refreshments will be served as well. This is for both brothers and sisters. So our salah schedule until the end of February is Fajr at 5:35 a.m., Dhuhr at 1:15 p.m., Asr at 3:30 p.m., Maghrib 5 minutes after the Adhan, and Isha at 7:15 p.m. That is all for today's announcements. May Allah reward you all. Ameen.